Now's the time.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead and put your name in the chat and your chapter.
Oops.
Okay, are you seeing my slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Do we start right at 6 or, well, it's 6:01. Do we want to give it another couple of minutes or kick it off?
Um, give it 2 minutes.
Okay,
6:03 on the nose.
okay. So what I needed to know. All right, I've got 6:03, so we'll give it a go. For those that you don't know me, my name is Liz Weigel. I am the Minnesota Women of Today parliamentarian. Jenny Orr, our secretary, also helped me put together these slides on what is a consent agenda. She was really bummed she couldn't be here, but I believe it's one of her children's birthdays today, so that's where she's at. I'm sure doing something fun. Not that this isn't. But I'm going to be talking through consent agendas, what it is, how it works, how to implement. If you have questions, feel free to stop me at any time or throw them in the chat. Sorry, I keep looking over here because my screen where you guys are is over here. Okay, so consent agendas, Robert's Rules also calls them consent calendars, is a way to group routine meeting discussion points into a single agenda item, so you're only approving one thing rather than taking the time to go through multiple different motions and multiple different um, discussions. It's something that's typically provided ahead of time, so it can help expedite your meetings. So things that are typically included on a consent agenda are minutes, treasury reports, individual project reports, topics of routine or recurring nature, any procedural decisions, simple ones, which goes into my next, non-controversial issues that shouldn't require debate or deliberation, or other items previously discussed that um, you've kind of come to a consensus on, but you still need an official vote, or if you were waiting on just a little bit more information, something that needs an official vote. So Jenny and I kind of put together a agenda template of what your agenda would look like. So for the sake of space, I kind of did it in two columns here, but you would go through your normal call to order, attendance, welcome, orders of the day, creed, pledge, and then you would do your consent agenda items. They would be listed out individually, and I'll have another more in-depth one on the next slide. And then you'll do that portion of your meeting, and then you'd go on to your other agenda items per typical. So this is kind of broken out a little bit more of what the consent agenda portions would be. So you'd have, say, minutes from a previous meeting, followed by your membership report, any recaps, renewals, project reports for project A, project B, any incoming correspondence that doesn't require any action, like if you get a thank you card or that's the only thing that I can think of off the top of my head right now. I apologize. Thank you cards are things that you just want your membership to know about, but don't really need to be discussed. And then simple treasury reports. So things that are, within your budget, just beginning balances, deposits, your simple ins and outs, not something that again would require additional discussion. Yes, Sherry, recordings and the deck will be available on the website. So how you would do a consent agenda is you would typically provide all the items ahead of time. My chapter has a Facebook group where the treasury reports and the minutes get posted as soon as they're ready to go. So those are available for members to review ahead of time. So when it came time to get to that portion of the agenda, the president would say, please review the list of items on the consent agenda. Are there any things that need to be pulled from the consent agenda to discuss? Because if there is something that somebody would like to talk about more in depth, rather than just, yep, we're going to approve it or no, we're not, you can decide to take that and put it in your old business or new business. If it's in the consent agenda, doesn't mean it has to stay there. You can still talk about it. You just need to decide at this point to take it out. Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda? You would proceed with your normal motion, second vote, and then it's been approved. In the event that something was removed, you would, simply state, we will proceed, or I motion to approve the consent agenda with the removal of, say, the treasury report. Say something looked weird and you're like, nope, I don't want to, I want to talk about this. So you can pull that out at that time in that manner. So I'm sorry, I talk really fast and did that really fast. That was actually my last slide. There's probably a million questions, so hit me with them.
I have one. This is Sherry.
Sherry, go for it.
So what cannot be on the consent agenda? Like,
Anything that's not provided for review ahead of time, and anything that requires like additional discussion. Like if it's you're setting a budget for a project, like you haven't talked about it yet, it's the first time it's coming up, you're like, hey, we need to do this project. Well, that's something where your committee chair or whomever is going to want to present and give a little bit more background. And like reimbursements, if they're not something that's in your typical budget, it's something outside of your budget, you won't want to have that in there. It really kind of depends on your chapter, but it's typically things that don't need discussion. It's routine business, stuff that people have seen already. It just kind of moves things along a little bit more. You don't have people sitting there like pretending to read the minutes because they already read them or they don't care, unfortunately.
okay. So like bylaws and budgets.
Those would be separate. Those
So
would be
have to be
something that you would
separate?
want to have a full discussion on and allow for
Okay.
that time and clarity.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Very custodian, kind of the stuff that you just kind of just as a matter of fact approve, right? That you would have looked at ahead of time, but anything you're gonna have a discussion and then that you would take a motion and a vote on, is is what you want to do. But this is more the stuff that maybe you talk about, maybe you don't talk about, but takes up a lot of that time. But anything that takes a real decision, you want to leave out of your consent agenda.
Yeah. It's just a way of grouping, like I said, like your minutes, your treasury reports, like a final project report, like if there was nothing noteworthy, like it's a project that you've done for a million years, you were within budget, like nothing crazy happened. Like your project chair can just submit that report, it would get sent to the members, and you can say, "Yep, we approve this, there's no discussion on it, like it's just routine. Like we've done turkey bingo every year for the last 20 years. Like we don't need to really talk about what we did differently."
You know, another way to think about it, it's the stuff you want in your minutes that don't really need to be talked about.
Absolutely. Yep.
Because
So,
we have,
like,
oh,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because the reason I asked about the bylaws and budget is, we send them out for a month ahead of time so people can
Mhm.
review. We could put that in the consent agenda because we gave them that time frame.
Something you really want to take a vote on. You want to make
Okay.
sure people looked at it, you
Okay.
discuss it.
Okay. Because we
Yeah.
do the consent agenda, we have never done added like bylaws and policies or budget in there, so I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
Okay, so
those are
not
things that
both.
you'll want to continue to keep separately.
Okay, got it. Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, Deb, unanimous consent, church council, we do it at our city council meetings. It's a pretty common thing in other circles. It's just not something that we've typically talked about in the Women of Today format. But I do know that Jenny's chapter does it as well as several others. We did get some examples when we announced that this was going to be our webinar topic. So we just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that Jenny and I are here as resources for you on things like this. And it sounds like Tevian knows quite a bit about it too, and perhaps Deb. So definitely willing to keep the conversation going. In the upcoming chapter mailing, there's going to be links to additional resources if you're looking for more examples and have questions. But it's absolutely something to just simplify. I mean, it may only cut out 5 or 10 minutes, but 5 or 10 minutes in everybody's hectic lives can mean a lot sometimes. So just want to make sure that you guys are aware that this is an option and have this forum for any questions you may have.
Okay,
Liz?
your slide that has the 5 items on it, the consent agenda. When you start your meeting and you say, these first 5 items are on the consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve? Is that as little as you do on these?
Yes, unless someone says, nope, I'd like to pull out item 4.
Okay,
Yep.
but you have to send it out in advance.
Yes, and you can establish within your chapter whatever that in advance means. If it's a week before, a couple days before, but it's something that should be readily available so that people can have time to look at it, because otherwise you're going to have the same problem where you're sitting at the meeting and everybody's reading through it. Like it's not conserving that time that you were hoping for. It's still equating to the same issue.
Right.
But
Hey,
yeah,
Liz, we have a couple of chapters on that I know are using this. Does anybody want to comment on how that's going for them? I know people from my
This is
chapter are on, and they've
Jojo.
been doing it for a year.
We've been doing it in Aiken for a little bit, but I wasn't I didn't know that we could do like minutes in our treasury report and stuff like
Mhm.
that. We usually just put our projects reports on there, so we don't have to read all of the project reports. And that has been very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And Like project reports, like it depends on what your chapter does for a project report. Like I have it pretty simplified here as, participation, income expenses, service hours, donations, stuff that you're going to want to put on the MNWT report, so that it's easy to find. But if you do like a full one pager with paragraphs and stuff that you want to share with your chapter, you can absolutely say see attached report. Like that's also something that you can put there as long as that full report is, like I said, also provided. And you know what? If you want to continue just doing your project reports, you can. But this is also another resource. Like it does, cut out again another few more minutes if you're putting your minutes on there um or your treasury report.
Yeah, this is really good information because I mean we're still a little confused about it, but just having our little project reports on there has saved us time. So if we can, put the minutes in there and the treasury report, if that's applicable for our treasurer
Mhm.
to do that, I think that this is really good information then to add to what we already do.
Absolutely.
And I would add on to that, Jojo. I mean, like kind of the rule of thumb around that is okay. What I would add on is the rule of thumb around the treasurer's report is if everything in there is something in your budget already, right? So everything that was paid out was something you had already planned to pay out per your budget and nothing went over. There were no exceptions. Everything you received was something you expected to receive, like membership dues or payment to register for something or whatever. Then that's a perfect example of when you would want to include this in a consent
Yeah, but
agenda.
again, if it's on the treasury report instead of, you know, the treasurer having to go through, well, we did this check, just if it was sent out ahead of time in for the consent agenda, she wouldn't have to go through that information.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And setting the precedent that if we're going to include it in the consent agenda, then it was items that were budgeted and planned for that, and there's no exceptions, then that helps, I think, people feel, oh, you're not trying to pass something by me and, just get us
Yeah,
to approve it, right?
because our treasurer report is pretty basic. I mean,
Mhm.
we write checks out for donations and all of that, but we talk about that at the meeting, that we did it. So when we get our treasurer's report, it just shows that that was done,
Right,
from the
Exactly.
previous.
absolutely. Like making those votes to make those donations would go in the regular portion of your agenda, but the next month when the checks are there, you don't need to talk about it again.
Right.
So when you're at a board meeting and you're writing out all these checks for the trimester, that's something that's already in our budget. We wouldn't even have to bring that up then, correct? Okay.
You would still present it, but you wouldn't have to talk about it. Like it would be, given in a separate report or just listed out in the agenda that, hey, this is what it was, but you don't have to talk about it.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Kind of keeping you from making decisions more than once, right? I mean,
Well, that's what you do
you already
sometimes.
made
Yeah.
that decision. You already made that decision when you set your budget and you said,
Yes.
yep, we're going to do a Ways and Means donation of $35 or whatever every
Yes.
trimester.
So
Well,
there's no
there
need to
it
bring it
is.
up again.
Nope. And so, yes, you see it in your treasurer's report, and now a record of that is in your minutes because it was in the treasurer's report that you did
That
it.
we
Yep.
already agreed on and voted on.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's something that we're, kind of encouraging chapters to start doing because I know we're always talking about, ways for our meetings to be valuable. And to Tevian's point, like it's not valuable to continue talking about the same thing twice or three times or four times. Like it's a lot of the same things over and over. And um it does help give us more time to talk about the things that matter. We really want to have the meat of our meetings be things that are valuable. Something that as a staff we've talked about for a couple of years now. Just making things intentional and maybe you can add some sort of enrichment or something to your meeting if you can cut out some of the excess that is just repetitive.
Are there any other chapters that want to share your experience? Okay, come on.
And
I have
we,
the two presidents from Burnsville. Share it.
I'm sorry. I
Go
cut you
ahead,
off
Sherry.
again.
Is the CMA doing it? You said you guys are starting to?
Well, we've done it for the last couple of months. Because our meetings were getting really, really long and we do have a lot of members
Mhm.
and it's helped a lot so that we can have speakers come in and talk to us and it's really helped. I'm curious to know what other things you would do in place of that. You know, not let me back up. Let me ask. You're saving time by the consent agenda. What would you fill it with that is really intentional and meaningful?
Is Shirley on?
Yep.
I think you should go for it, girl. Tell us what to do with all that extra time.
You should do a random act of kindness.
We
Do
do
a little
those before the
project.
meeting.
Have a speaker.
Yep.
Change things up.
Yeah.
Yeah, add a pep course, do an enrichment. I know our program managers are working on getting the libraries on the website back up and running, and the membership team. So, you can do a few more things
10-minute
like that.
orientations.
Yeah,
The 10-minute orientations that are out there.
Yep, those are good too.
Watch
And-
a webinar for people that haven't attended.
That's a good one. I like that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, Burnsville does the consent agenda and has been doing it for this last year. And we send out the treasurer's report with the agenda for the chapter meeting so that everyone sees it beforehand. And then we also do recaps of our projects besides the secretary's minutes and the other things you mentioned. But it's been working fine, and sometimes we get through a meeting in an hour instead and have more time for chatting and snacking.
Absolutely. You get to have that social aspect, as Tevian's shoving a snack in her mouth right now. Sorry, I caught you.
Just got Girl Scout cookies this afternoon.
Oh, nice.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, you could add a social time too. Oh, Sherry's got Girl Scout cookies too, or some cookie. Any other chapters have experiences with these that you want to talk about, or any more questions? We're all so
I think that was
excited.
great, Liz.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
And like I said, Jenny is super hyped about these. So if you guys have questions, she is happy to answer them as well as myself. Like, she was legitimately really bummed that she couldn't be here for this. She was so sad. So I expect some good things on this in the upcoming chapter mailing too. So thank you all for your attention and sharing. And yeah, that's it for me. Now I gotta run to bowling. It's a night of many things.
Thank you, Liz. Great job. Good information.
Thank you.
Now we get to see everybody's smiling faces.
John brings in Vic Bacon, owner and executive chef of Vic's New American Restaurant in Las Vegas.
Tevian, I'll work on getting your PowerPoint up here. So that way when it's 6:30, you can start.
So who has a random act of kindness to share that they completed in the last week? Or during random act of kindness day or whatever week? That was last week.
I donated towards my sister is helping people in the cities to get food that are afraid to go out. So I donated money to help her do that.
Oh, awesome.
STMA just did 50 birthday basket things and took 50 to each one of our 25 to each one of our food shelves.
Oh, great idea. Love it.
I helped a guy get groceries, and I also watched a friend's dog for 2 days.
Well, that was very nice.
Maple Grove donated to the Veterans Pantry, food to the Veterans Pantry.
Oh, cool.
I took a
I
friend
brought
out
in
for
candy. Oh,
lunch.
sorry.
I took a friend out for lunch and paid for her lunch just as a little surprise.
Oh, sweet.
I brought in candy for the kids, the high school children I was substituting for the day before Valentine's Day.
Nice. Hutchinson created 300 of the little tea and honey packets or deals for the Valentine's Day outreach program that goes out to widows and widowers in the community. So we collaborated with
Drove
them.
out to Litchfield and celebrated their anniversary with them. That was my act of kindness for them.
That was very sweet.
No, the week before I helped with a drive-through drop-off of art supplies for our kids that are not coming to school right now.
That was great.
Yep, we had 40 cars bring stuff by on a very cold day.
Cookies from, we were some random recipients of a random act of kindness. We had a meal train. So then when I went back to work, I brought cookies in a box to each person. So I baked 14 dozen cookies. It was great.
Oh, that's nice. Wow. There's a lot of people doing a lot of really, really cool things for other people just to put a smile on their face. That's amazing.
I don't know about you guys, but I find it really humbling to be someone to receive an act of kindness. It's really, I don't mind doing them, but it's really hard to take it. I know that sounds really weird, but I felt like I needed to do something because someone did something for me, and people said, "Dad, that defeats the purpose." I said, "No, but I enjoy baking, you know." But it just felt weird. I mean, it just felt different to be the one getting it. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't.
That's interesting that you say that because I've had a couple people ask me about that, and they said you have never talked about, receiving, how humbling it is to receive. And I thought, no, I guess I haven't. I've just talked about doing it. So it is a little different.
It is. It's very touching to. I don't know. I remember just feeling like I can't believe it.
I heard someone once say that when someone does an act of kindness for you and you take it warmly, you're actually giving them kindness back. Because if you have to put yourself in that situation, like when you do something for someone else, how you get that warm feeling from just seeing their face and gratitude. So kind of think of it that way, like you're giving them a gift as well. You're not just getting something from them.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point.
I just met with a young couple last night that they're going to have a child in April, and they have asked me to watch their little baby for the summer so they don't have to worry about taking them to the daycare. So that's kind
Aw.
of like keeping him out of the daycare for the first 3 months while he's a very, very tiny baby. So,
Nice.
That sounds like fun.
oh, I'm excited about it. I can't wait. I start June 2nd.
That
Great.
sounds so
It's
awesome.
6:30. Are we
Oh.
ready?
We're ready.
We're
Okay.
ready.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right. If everybody could mute themselves while we're doing this, I would appreciate it. All right. So I'm going to start out. This is Tevian Sorensen. I'm the chairman of the board. And I support the 3 committee chairs. And we're going to talk a little bit about committees. And then each one of the chair people are going to talk about their specific committee and what's involved with that. So, Kenya, you want to move forward? All right, so just a little bit of 101 on committees. We have 4 statewide committees. These are actually defined in our bylaws. So we have the Finance Committee, which is one we are not going to go into detail on tonight. The Finance Committee is responsible for providing financial direction, tells us where funds go, and also responsible for the budget and the revision of the budget we do at the mid-year process. And the Finance Committee is overseen by the Financial VP. So the 3 that we often refer to as statewide committees, because finance meets on a different time, but these 3 meet together, are Future Directions, Membership Management, and Marketing. Put these in a little weird order, but I'm going to start with Membership Management and Marketing, and then we'll finish with Future Directions. But the Membership Management does exactly that. Their whole purpose, and these are the definitions from the bylaws, is to support and assist the state president and staff, typically the membership VP, with anything they need around membership and growing and maintaining, retaining our members. They have some very specific tasks that over the last several years we've given them to do and they're responsible for. Not just the membership management chair, though oftentimes that who does a lot of it, but she has a whole committee that she can call on to support her with those tasks. So I'll let Allie Staley, who is our MMC chair, go into detail on some of that. Then we have the marketing committee, which is overseen by our marketing vice president. And their whole purpose is to increase understanding of our mission through communications, managing media relations, everything that is about marketing our organization or our chapters, both internally and externally. So whether that's helping with growing your social media presence, whether it's doing a sale of tablecloths and table runners, helping with postcards. I mean, their whole job is one, to provide support for the chapters, but then also to look at what should we be doing and how can we be marketing our organization in a new way and to help us grow organizationally. And then lastly, we have the Future Directions Committee, which advises the Executive Council on everything operationally about our organization. So the structure, we want to add new positions, take away positions, redefine positions. That all goes through Future Directions. How we actually operate, programming, how things within programming work. It also, Future Directions is where the long range goals and strategies, so our strategic plan is housed within Future Directions. We review the proposed changes that are going to come out of the March planning process that we'll go through here in another week. And then they also oversee the implementation. So Amy Pumper is the chair of this committee, and she's going to talk a little bit more about the various things that currently going through Future Directions and then some other stuff you might have seen in the past. And then I failed to mention our marketing vice president is Maggie Holmberg. So these all open committees. Any members can attend. We're always welcome. We hold them 3 times a year. And you're welcome to come attend. There are standing members of each committee, as well as open positions that area reps and general members, and they'll each talk about those with me on them. And then within each committee, there are subcommittees and task forces. That's all outlined in our bylaws and policies, what those, how those work. We have committees, and then a subcommittee is something that is permanently there, or we expect to be there every year, and it has a chair, and we look for that every year. They'll give some examples of those. And then a task force is something we're going to bring, a group of people we're going to bring together for a specific purpose. They're going to work through that purpose, and then we're going to disband that task force. So it's not something that's defined in our policies. It's not something that we expect to be there long term. Sometimes we have a task force that turns into a subcommittee. We just had that with one of our future directions task forces around programming. Went from a task force to a subcommittee, but that's basically how we're organized. Any questions about this before we jump into the actual committees? Okay, if you want to move forward, I'm going to turn it over to Amy.
Hey, everyone. So the members of the Future Directions Committee include our state president, administrative vice president, programming vice president, financial vice president, parliamentarian, marketing vice president, chairman of the board, executive director, the current and past Future Directions chair, the MMC chair, the foundation chair, and subcommittee chairs. There's 4 general members and an area rep from each area. And we have those set up so that they serve a 2-year term. The 1 and 2 or 1 and 3 are going for another year. The 2 and 4 complete their term this year, and we'll either have them continue or someone else will step in for that. Then we have 4 general members, and there again, they serve offsetting 2-year terms. Some expectations we have are to attend the meetings, provide the perspective, review materials, chair or participate in committees and or task force. And you don't have to be a committee member to serve on those subcommittees or task force. You can just serve as the chair and not be a member in one of the other capacities. Some information on those subcommittees. The forms management one, make sure forms are correct in all formats, Word, PDF, and as the email me forms that you see on the website. Manual review oversees the review of the manuals by schedule as shown in our state plan of action. The programming subcommittee has redefined the programming areas that have been shared in the newslet and at conventions this year, and they are currently working on a chapter information packet template where it's makes it a little easier for the members that are new to executive council to create their chapter information packet knowing what is expected of them. The online training oversees the trainings we have online and works with the current state president and future directions to ensure we're offering what is requested. The strategic plan ensures that we're all working towards goals set for a 5-year time frame. We are getting close to the end of this 5-year time frame. So in the end of 2027, we will be starting to put together a new 5-year plan. The Winter State Awards is looking at how we recognize those who are submitted but don't win the awards. Excuse me. We'll move on to task forces. The restructuring task force is currently looking at the role of the state delegate. They worked on certificates and how we will distribute them. And I believe that we're just sticking with the way they're currently done. Success System has completed an update that will roll out for the 26-27 year. As you go to lots and annual convention, you'll be seeing that information. The PALS task force is looking at bringing back this program and how it would look. Some of the previous ones, the convention review one, after much discussion, doing a survey, getting information from our members, we made some changes and recommendations were made to the state president, executive director, that type of thing. The deceased member task force put in play how we will recognize those deceased members going forward. And then the chapter mailing task force updated how or when we put out that chapter mailing. And then the last one was the one that Tevian just shared on the elections promotion. You probably noticed that a state president candidate information was put out on Facebook. That came about because of that committee or that task force. And so that's some examples of what's happening and what can be happening. Any questions?
So why don't we go on to the next one? Thank you, Amy. And then we'll come back and see if there's questions at the end. All right. Is it Allie on? Did I miss her? If not, I can cover this. Okay, well, I'll just cover it. So similar to future directions, the membership management committee, currently chaired by Allie Staley, is made up of several members of exec council, the president, the MVP, the chapter management VP, extensions director, so all the membership positions, the chairman of the board, the executive director. You'll see some of these sit on every all of the committees. That includes finance and so the MMC chair. We also have any official subcommittee chairs, and then again the 4 general members and an area rep from each area, which are the different districts that are combined. And again, those alternate 2-year terms with the odd areas being up in the odd years and the even areas being up in the even years. So again, very similar. The expectations for the members here are to attend those meetings, provide perspective when needed, review materials as requested, and then chair or participate in subcommittees or task forces. I'll talk a little bit about a couple of tasks that this MMC committee is responsible for, that sometimes the members get asked to help with. And but the subcommittees, we have 2 subcommittees that fall under this, which are leadership and the membership orientation and training. So the leadership is chaired by Anna Nichols, and they've been working on a lot of the orientation materials that have been coming out. And the biggest thing that they've been doing are the 3 forums at convention this year. There's also where the leadership training that was developed and has been done at lots the last couple of years came out of. So that's all about how do we grow leaders in our organization and what materials do we use to support that. And then we've got membership orientation and training. What's come out of that recently has been the editable chapter orientation that's out on the website, and then doing a district, state, national orientation once a trimester that the membership VP has been responsible for scheduling and coordinating. So if you're not familiar with those orientations and you think your members would benefit from that, you can reach out to the MMC chair or the membership vice president, and they'd be happy to bring you up to speed on both of those. Currently, we have a couple of task forces, membership recognition. I think this is still ongoing, but the primary thing that they have done and rolled out were the anniversary recognitions for a number of years of service. And we're continuing to work on that and look at, are there things that we should be doing to recognize people when they hit a significant milestone like 40 years. That's kind of where we're at right now. And otherwise, then it's just maintaining that and doing those recognitions every year. And then the mini orientations, looking at they've been building out all of those 10-minute orientations, which, Anna, keep me honest, I think we're almost done with that. I think you guys are about to be done with your full list.
The 10-minute orientations are done, and then it moved over to the subcommittee, and they're going to be creating longer and shorter orientations as needed, but the specific 10-minute orientations as they are now, that task force is gone and everything's gone into the training and orientation committee. Yep.
Okay.
I've been giving her
Well,
more
if you haven't-
topics.
Yeah, if you guys have ideas on things you want in orientation or training, whether it's a longer version or I think the focus was what can we do in 2 minutes, then you can get those ideas to MMC or any of the people you see listed as members. Then a couple of the recent task forces, we did talk about the deceased member one. Amy mentioned that was a joint task force that looked at and was headed up by Glory Balhuns, which we appreciate that they came up with a form. So if you have a member pass away, you can submit that information so that the state knows about it. And then we recognize all of the members that have been reported to us get recognized at annual convention. There's a little memorial that is set up that the CMVP oversees. And then we've been, recognizing them as well. So there's that. The couple of responsibilities that I just wanted to call out that MMC does oversee is convention first timers. So the MMC chair is typically the one that puts together the first timer book and holds the first timer meeting at conventions. So I know we've had some feedback on that in the past and we've changed it up a little bit. That's the MMC chair is involved in that. And then the new member outreach and orientation. So the MMC is responsible for there's a set of letters that go out. Either one of them's mailed out and a couple of them are mailed out, but when a new member joins, they get communication from the state. At the end of the trimester they join, and then for the subsequent 2 trimesters, so that they're touched 3 times in that first year from the state, giving them more information about conventions, programming, ways to get involved. And then they're also invited in their second and third trimester to attend the state orientation. So we're kind of here to be that way to welcome in new members and to bring new information to them, even in those chapters that maybe this isn't their focus. This is how we hopefully get them interested beyond their chapter. Anything I've left off, or anybody have any questions? All right. And then is Maggie on?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We're going to switch over to marketing, Maggie Holmberg.
So hello, I'm Maggie, Marketing VP. Some of the members of the marketing committee include the state president, marketing vice president, secretary, web team representative, chairman of the board, executive director, and subcommittee chairs for general members and 1 area member for each area. Expectations for members include attending the meetings, providing their perspectives, reviewing materials as requested, and chair participate in subcommittees or task force as needed. So very similar to all the other committees. Some of the subcommittees that we are working on now is promoting Minnesota Women of Today. How we've done that would be through the tablecloths and runners sales that we've done. We've also worked on like the Frost game and getting our name out there in the community through the Minnesota Frost game. Another subcommittee is the web development. So working on that and having that full of resources for different chapters to utilize, including brochure and newsletter templates and different just various resources that would be beneficial to the chapters. One of our current task forces right now is our creed review, and we are reviewing the word fellowship and just how we are utilizing that word and how that is seen within the community or just our areas, and making sure that we aren't creating any barriers for new members to join by and just kind of getting everyone's perspective on that. A recent task force has been our newslet, and continuing on working on that to make sure we provide information and are utilizing it to the best of our abilities. And am I missing anything else with that, Tevian? All right, so quick and painless for marketing.
Yeah, you want to, I think there's one more slide. Yeah, so just so we gave a little overview of each one of the committees. So kind of the way this works, we get ideas, we get suggestions, whether that comes through the staff, whether that comes through members, whether that comes through the March planning meeting, which I can talk on for a minute after we do this. Then so we just get lots of ideas and suggestions. Sometimes it's just because we struggled through something and it didn't seem like it quite worked. And then we'll discuss them. A chairperson kind of figures out, does that fit under one of our standing subcommittees, or do we need a task force for it? Or sometimes it just gets handed to somebody on staff where we find out about it through the committee work, but then it's something that like a staff member would handle or executive director would handle. Some kind of communication needs to go out. So whatever the issues, the ideas, they get assigned out or at least discussed, and then decide what to do with it. And then whether it's one person or a group of people, they kind of work on that solution, figure out what we're going to do about whatever it is, or what the suggestions are. How, sometimes it's not as simple as go figure it out and we do that. A lot of things take discussion and it comes back and you wonder why changes take so long, but it's just a matter of you got to really think through all the implications of actions that we take and stuff. So then it comes back, we review it with the committee, make sure things have all been thought through, make sure that we really think that'll be a good solution, and then it goes through approval. Something I learned is that because we get asked this question, and we actually ask ourselves this question sometimes, but future directions per our bylaws can decide on things within the state. Future directions has that ability to approve things, except for bylaws, policy, or things affecting the budget. So while they may get reviewed within future directions, a lot of times they then either need to go to executive council to be approved, such as policies, or then taken to the membership, especially with regards to bylaws, or things need to go to finance committee if it involves budget, and then get reviewed and approved and moved on that way. So if you come to a committee meeting, or if you've never been to a committee meeting, we start with marketing and membership management in the morning, and the things that are discussed there will also get recapped and reviewed at the future directions committee meeting, because if it's something that needs some type of approval, they also need to be presented then at future directions for approval. So when needed,
like I said, we moved things from finance to executive committee. And then, as you all know, bylaw changes go to our membership, and we've got a process for that. So this is kind of how work happens. We do have one formal process every year, which is coming up, March planning. It's this year, it's on March the 7th in Sartell, and we're holding it, we've done this a couple of times, holding it the day before. We then have the state committee meetings on that Sunday. But this is your chance. If you've got an idea or a suggestion or something that you think we ought to be considering or looking at for the organization, this is a great opportunity to submit those, send them in, and a group of people, and it's open to anyone that wants to attend. But it's definitely made up of the staff, committee members, people with a lot of Minnesota Women of Today experience, and we discuss it as a group and talk about, not really make decisions on all of it, but kind of understand it better and understand, well, they're saying they want it to work like this. Well, that's actually how it should be working. So maybe that's a training issue, or maybe it's something we need to review and make sure it's in people's operations manual that they know that. So, or maybe it's just a great idea and we need to send it to a committee and they need to work on it, and or even look at it. Like we don't make those decisions at March planning. We just kind of decide where it needs to go and who needs to be assigned that item. So that's kind of what March planning is. If you have a suggestion, you still have a couple of days to get those submitted in. You can find the recommendations form on the chairman of the board page, or you can just email bob@mwt.org. And you can also go online to register and attend on the 7th. Kenya, I think there might be one more. There we go. So the committee meetings are next Sunday, a week from Sunday, in Sartell at the Boy Scout office. And come in, register at 9:30. Then you'll have the marketing meeting, membership management, and we take a break for lunch, which is always a goodwill offering for what's there. And then we've got future directions in the afternoon. And we do offer a Zoom option. It's kind of hard sometimes to participate, though it's gotten a lot better than when we first started. But it's one of those, if you can't attend in person, but you're still interested, we would love to have you attend by Zoom. March planning is not available by Zoom because it's just one of those you got to be in person to be part of those discussions. Annie, I know we went through that fast. It's a lot. I know somebody posted it's a great way to learn. I am a huge proponent. Committees is how I got just totally sucked into working outside of my chapter and ultimately to the position I'm in now. So I say come join committees and find out more about what's going on.
I have a quick question about the early bird registration.
Yeah.
If I registered already, can I pay $8 when I get there, or does that need to be
Yes.
postmarked?
Nope. I just
Oh.
needed a head count. So yeah, if you
Okay.
registered, you can pay when you come.
Okay, thank you.
That's for March planning. Yep. It's free to come to the committee meetings.
In regard to the creed review, we
Mhm.
just reviewed our bylaws, and we noticed that our mission had the word women in it, and we have men in the organization too, so we changed from women to members, but our creed still has the word women in it.
That is one of the pieces that task force is looking at. The other part I know that was specifically brought up last year, this was actually a March planning recommendation last year, was around the word fellowship.
Yes. Mhm.
And so I think all of that is being looked at, is my understanding, Bonnie.
Okay, good.
Good question. That's how changes happen. Any other questions?
If you can't think of any like recommendations, can you still provide some when you're there, or should it be prior
Let
on the
not
agenda.
Yeah, we have it all prepared out. So we typically don't do that. So if you've got ideas, write them down. Let's talk about them. Doesn't mean that's your only doesn't mean you have to hold it for the next year. We can always figure out where that would go and who you can tell and how we can get it on somebody's plate.
Okay, thank you.
And that's with anything, right? You don't have to wait for March planning, but this is kind of our big review and setting our agenda going into the new year for the committees. All right. Well, I think my time's over. Thank you to the chairs for helping present this. If you guys have any questions, reach out to the chair people or myself. We're happy to give you more information about committees and come on the 7th and 8th.
Great. Thank you, Tevian and Amy and Maggie. Yeah, that was great. Okay, I'm excited to have one of our chapter members share with you now, Michelle Kiefer.
Hello, everybody. Did you want me to, there we go. Awesome. Yes, I am Michelle Kiefer, and I am a member of the Hutchinson Area Women of Today chapter. And Shirley asked for me to present on mental health. And I have been very passionate about mental health and suicide prevention for a very long time, because when my oldest son, he's 31 right now, was in 7th grade, one of his friends lost his life to suicide. And then when my second son was a sophomore in high school, he lost one of his best friends to suicide. And in my 40s, I found out that my mom had tried to take her own life when I was 5 years old. So throughout my life, I have been touched by mental health in many different ways. And so I speak a lot about it. I like to share space for others to tell their stories, to talk about their mental health. And so, and having done that, and my fellow chapter members knowing how passionate I am about mental health and suicide prevention, Shirley asked if I could speak of something regarding mental health. So I am a community health specialist with CentraCare, and the Minnesota Department of Health provides training called Changing the Narrative. And the Changing the Narrative is all about helping people have the language to say that they need help, that they are sad, that they are thinking of taking their life. And then it also, on the other side of it, helps us hear those words and know how to have a conversation with them. So in Changing the Narrative, I'm really, if you can go to the next slide, please. I'm really wanting for us to understand the language when talking about mental health and suicide. So we're holding a safe space for individuals. And throughout this training, I want us to feel at the end that we are empowered to have these healthy conversations, that we identify the risks and the protective factors associated with people who may be thinking about ending their life or hurting themselves. So understanding those signs in people, and then an overview of what to do when you are with someone who may be in crisis. And so I'm going to preface this by saying I am not a mental health practitioner. I'm very passionate about learning everything and all that I can as a person of the community, as a mom, as a sister, as an aunt, as a friend, as a neighbor. I can to help those who are in my circle in helping them to be healthier. So I just wanted you to know that. And at the end, I will share some resources on where to get more information so you too can learn more about how to help yourself, your family, your friends, and your circle of people. Next slide, please. So throughout our conversations that we have with people around us, there's some rules that we should all agree to follow. And these may be just those that are within yourself. This is agreement with yourself. That there's going to be times when you have some very difficult conversations, and be vulnerable to expect those and welcome those from others, and maintain your strong womanhood and your braveness to hold that space. And then we want to be able to move up and move on. So we're not going to speak a lot, but we're going to listen a lot. And then if there is silence, just honor and respect that silence, that you are there beside them, and that's where they need you to be, and hold that space for them. Be present in your active listening. So you aren't being distracted by your phone or by a commercial or by what is happening outside the window, but you are actively listening and being very aware of what is being said to you. And don't make up things that you don't know that are true or not. Just speak your own truth and let others speak theirs. There's different perspectives, and those should be welcomed and encouraged, but speak from your own lived experience, and just speak the truth as you know it. So no one knows everything, and together we know a lot. So lean into the friends and families and professionals that you have in your life, and speak to them about what you might be going through. But when others speak to you about what it is that they have, then keep that confidentiality and have the trust within that other person that you're not sharing outside of what is shared between the two of you. But you can ask for other resources and where people can get help as a person who is just interested in knowing about where to get more help, and then share that with the person. It is helpful for us as trainers and as well for those who are listening to our training. So as I'm speaking for myself right now, that we respect the commitments that we've made to one another, and we respect these community agreements as well. And you can just read through some of the rest of what these community agreements that if you're not a mental health practitioner like myself, I'm not out there to fix the problem, and I'm not going to say I'm going to fix the problem. I'm not going to save anyone through a special magic potion or, a snap of my fingers, but I can help. I can always be there to provide some relief in the discomfort and be the active listener that I need to be. And no judgment. If you're starting to make judgment, then stop and just turn it into wonder, turn it into curiosity. And statements like, I wonder if, I'm curious, do you think that? And instead of being one who assumes the situation. And then we are human, we are not perfect. That is for everybody. That is for myself, especially. And if we just own up to things that we might be saying are a mistake or not true, that we can apologize for that and just recognize that you're human, you're not perfect. And then the last one, um, we all want to be able to solve problems and resolve conflict. But this is lifelong work. We're all in training, we're all learning at all times. And so allow yourself that as well. So that's just a quick overview on what community agreements are. All right, now moving into the next slide and a little activity that we're going to do. You don't need to come off mute or off camera. This is just something that you can do in your own headspace, in your own silence, if you would like to. But what do you need for yourself? So I want you to think of a permission slip. A permission slip is like allowing yourself to feel or act in a certain way. It grants you permission to be your brave, authentic self and state your intention for how we want to behave. So, that in a nutshell is your permission slip. So, these are guidelines and not rules to think of yourself and your permission slip. It's just a guideline on how we want to move on. And then how are you going to give yourself permission to learn from what it is that I'm going to share? And then giving yourself permission to share that learning with someone else. So we're going to give ourselves permission to learn something that you can take for yourself, and then giving yourself permission or that assignment, if you will, to share that learning with someone else as well. Okay, moving on. So most importantly, through the next few minutes or the time that we have together, take care of yourself. So we will be talking about suicide. I will be using that word. I will be talking about mental health. And so if those words, because of lived experience, are difficult for you, please allow yourself to take a break and come back when you feel ready, and do something that helps you to feel better, whether it's taking deep breaths, it's doing something, getting yourself a drink, just coming off camera. So take care of yourself first and foremost, more than anything during this time. I'm not going to tell any stories of people other than my own personal stories. And so for me, that is as much as I am going to share. And just wanted you to understand that we're not going into people's stories outside of ones that I have shared personally. So I just want to give you a heads up about that. Okay, going on now to share changing the narrative. I hope that by going through this training that we're going to build some hope and resilience in helping to understand about mental health and suicide prevention. Since COVID, mental health has become number one on the main stage of life. And it's because of all that we have endured through social isolation and just not being able to live our lives like we normally have. There's many other reasons that mental health is main stage. I hope it's because we've become more confident and better about talking about it and using the words. So sending a message after the end of this training that there is hope, that there is help and mental health. This journey is a long journey, but we can know that there are resources available to us. Okay, now a little interaction from yourself. If you can, in the chat, please share the answer to this question on the next slide. One more, please. Sorry, I jumped ahead. Okay, so in the chat, if you can, please, or if you would like to come off mute and share with us, what are some words you think of when you hear mental health? Yep, depression. Exactly. There are quite a few different mental illnesses that can come under the umbrella of mental health, such as anxiety, bipolar, yes, ADHD, being a moody. There's a lot of negative stigma with mental health, with the mental illness, with having a diagnosis. Yeah, and that's why people don't want to talk about it, because they don't know how they're going to be received when they start opening up about it. Thank you, everyone, for your comments in the chat. I appreciate this interaction. A lot of great comments. Thank you all. So a common beliefs about mental health is that we grew up with, that we know about, is that mental illness is exclusively a brain disorder. Mental health equals mental illness. Mental illness is a medical condition and can only be addressed by a medical professional. Some people believe that mental illness is a character flaw. Some people might believe that mental well-being means happiness, or mental well-being is a choice. You can choose to be sad. You can choose to be happy. Mental well-being is optional. You can either have mental well-being or not have mental well-being. Well, those are a lot of different common beliefs around mental health. And I'm not going to say those are right or wrong, but we have, because of research, come to a different frame of mind when talking about mental health. Next slide, please. So according to the World Health Organization, they have a definition of what mental health means. So it's a state of well-being in which the individual realizes their own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to their own community. So I hope in reading that slowly, you picked up on some key words there that can resonate for you, that you can hold on and use when talking about mental health. So let's dig deeper into what mental health is. The next slide, please. So mental health is an umbrella term. It captures everything from your daily mood to severe mental distress. It exists on a continuum that is always in flux, and 100% of people have mental health every day. So mental health is a general sense of emotional, psychological, and cognitive well-being. Everyone has mental health every day, but is often ignored unless something is going seriously wrong. The best way to prevent that is to pay attention to your mental health, even when you're feeling okay or even good. So, for example, I can share with you that today I was feeling off. I felt this way all day. Now, I understand my mental health because I have been through a lot of trainings, but even better than that, it is lived experience for me to deal with depression. So I'm speaking of myself, have depression. I take medication. I see a therapist. I have coping skills that I can use within my back pocket when I feel like I'm not myself. And one of those things is taking a daily walk. So thankfully, I have a dog named Roxy, and she demands a walk every day. If she doesn't get her walk, she will definitely show me that she hasn't had her walk and she needs one. So thankfully, I have a dog that will take me on a walk every day. But because also I know that I need a walk every day, and I always feel better after a walk, that it is one of my skills to help me reset. Okay. So that is how I recognize my mental health. Today, I was feeling off, needed to go for a walk. And honestly, I apologize for being late because I was getting home from a walk and I was booking it as soon as I could to get back. But I felt better. I felt better after that walk, and I'm very happy to be here with you all. All right, so moving on. What is a language that we can use in speaking about mental health? So the difference between mental illness and mental well-being, okay? What does that mean? So a mental illness is a clinical term that describes a specific condition. So the clinical term I have for my mental illness is depression. Mental illness impacts mood, thinking, and behavior so that it's difficult to feel emotionally and cognitively well. So for my mental illness, my depression, without my medication, without my therapist, and without my coping skills that I've learned, my mood, thinking, behavior would be very difficult for everybody around me, including myself. There are times that it can be chronic, or acute, just on a small scale or a very large scale, and that 50% of people will experience a mental illness at some point in their lives. Mental well-being is a strengths-based term. It describes a sense of emotional and cognitive wellness. It can exist at the same time as mental illness and is fueled by a sense of belonging, connection, and meaning in one's life. Any questions so far? Okay, moving on then to the next slide, please. So like I said, it's on a continuum. Either we have a lot of energy or a little bit of energy. And I love this diagram of the battery. So we all oftentimes throughout the day look at our phones and see how much battery we have left. We look at our iPads, how much battery do we have left? So let's think of that in terms of our mental health and use this battery as a tool to help us understand our own or those that we care about their mental health. So by indicating whether or not your battery is full and it's all the bars are green, we're feeling good. Everything is perfect, as perfect can be, quote unquote. and it means that we're in good condition. And as the battery gets lower, then a person's mental health can becoming less and less and require a charge, require it to get plugged in. And when we get down into the red zone, that's a critical area, and we want to get charged as soon as possible. So I shared this battery with my youngest son, who is 22, and he doesn't want to be asked, "How's your day? How are things going?" It's better to say, on a scale of rainy or sunny, how are you feeling? On this battery, I've shown him this battery example, and I said, where are you at here in this battery continuum of being fully charged or in the red zone? And he can tell me, I'm 3 bars. I'm kind of in the orange, yellowish orange place. So you can use this as a tool to get a sense of how someone is feeling if they're perhaps not speaking about how they're feeling, maybe trying to give them an example to use on a scale of 1 to 10, on a battery charged from fully charged to needing to get plugged in. How are you feeling? Okay. So on the next slide, you can use these words for each of the battery levels of being charged. From the green zone, you're thriving, things are going well. The yellow oranges, you're managing, you can do things, you're still doing okay. In the orange zone, you're struggling. You are losing your energy quickly. And then the red zone, you're in crisis, you're not doing well, you need some help. Let's get you plugged in. I hope this is helpful for some of you so you can maybe use this with those around you or for yourself too. On the next slide, we have the 8 dimensions of wellness. I'm going to quickly move on into the next slide because the next slides moving on go through each of them. So I'm not going to talk about that first one in great length. So in the 8 dimensions of wellness, so there's 8 areas that we need to feel balanced, to feel like we are not tipping, and to have that whole area of our wellness filled in and that we're doing well. So physical wellness is basically about you're able to achieve and maintain a healthy quality of life. You have enough energy to be productive in your daily activities, both at work and outside of work. So questions you might be thinking about, am I getting enough movement? Does my body hurt? Do I need to make a doctor's appointment? Those are all examples of understanding physical wellness. It's very important to our mental health to be physically healthy. And I feel like we often dismiss our mental health because physical health is number one. And there shouldn't be a difference or a scale of which is more important, physical wellness or mental wellness. They're both equally very important. Moving on to emotional wellness. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Thank you. Emotional wellness. So what does that look like? So it's developing awareness and understanding and acceptance of your feelings. You are effectively managing stress, recognizing your limitations, and maintaining a sense of optimism. So as you travel along and you're trying to find that emotional wellness, becoming aware of your feelings and better being able to express those feelings is having a sense of emotional wellness. On the next slide, it can gives you some questions to think about when wondering about emotional wellness and what that means to you. The next dimension of emotional wellness is social wellness. So on the next slide, you can see people are socializing with one another. They're happy. They're outdoors. They're with people that they're feeling connected to. And so emotional wellness involves developing and maintaining healthy relationship with friends and family and the community, and having an interest in and concern for the needs of others and humankind. So what does this dimension involve? Well, if we had a sense of being alone like we did during COVID, that was very difficult and people's social wellness was very low. It's important to have a good level of social wellness because people matter. Your socializing and your ability to not to be out there and not be isolated is a direct impact on whether you have the other areas of wellness, and is a great sort of like thermometer in knowing if you're out and about and you're getting the socialization that you need. Now, not all of us are extroverts, some of us are introverts, but it's at some level, we all need a sense of and the ability to socialize in whatever level that means to you. And in the next slide are some questions to think about to understand more about your social wellness. Another area of the 8 dimensions of wellness on the next slide is environmental wellness. And you might think about how really does the environment affect our wellness? Well, environmental wellness is related to the surroundings where you live, work, and play. It's about valuing the relationship between yourselves, your community, and the environment. The core principle of environmental wellness is respect, respect for all nature and all species living in it. So some of us are dog lovers or cat lovers, or we love swimming, or we love canoeing, or just going outside for walks. Those are part of our environment. Those are all places where we can feel alive and where we can feel nature. And if you live in an environment where going outside for a walk, when that's something you really love to do, doesn't allow you to do so because you're living next to very busy streets and there are no sidewalks, and you just don't feel safe, maybe that's not environmental wellness. So it does matter to you where you live, work, and play, how much you can have a relationship with the outdoors, with the environment. And on the next slide, it gives you some questions to think about in regards to your environmental wellness. Couple more areas of wellness. Intellectual wellness on the next slide. What does that mean? Intellectual wellness is expanding one's knowledge and skills while discovering the potential of sharing your gifts with others. It is achieved through activities that inspire and stimulate a person's desire to learn, explore, and expand your mind. So at the beginning of my presentation, I said I love learning about mental health and suicide prevention. That is a piece of my intellectual wellness. And so in the next slide, these are some questions that can help you think about your intellectual wellness. Are you open to new ideas? Do you challenge your mind? Are you looking for ways to be creative? Are you allowed to share those ways that you are creative? And are you do you have opportunities to learn new things? That is what intellectual wellness means. Okay, after intellectual wellness, on the next slide, we have spiritual wellness. Spiritual wellness is being connected to something greater than yourself and having a set of values, principles, morals, and beliefs that provide a sense of purpose and meaning to life. Spiritual wellness helps us guide our daily actions through what it is that we have beliefs in, and how we share those beliefs. So, spiritual wellness is important because it has the power and the capability to help us be aware of our personal values and get connected to others who have that same awareness of personal values. Getting back to the social wellness. It has the power and capability to ground us during periods of change. So grounding is one of those techniques that, one of those coping skills that I use quite frequently to get me out of my head when it's just spiraling and I need to stop. And so grounding, so stop and say a prayer. Think about my higher power, my Lord and Savior Jesus, and thinking about how that kind of faith can get me through a difficult time. Spiritual wellness has the power and capability to give us a sense of hope, give us a sense of connection, and give us some inner peace in the face of adversity. So, in the next slide, helping you think about spiritual wellness, answering these questions for yourself. Okay, and then the next dimension of wellness is financial wellness. Financial wellness isn't about the love of money or having a ton of it, but it does require thoughtful planning and spending to minimize debt and be financially secure so that you can meet your needs and be prepared for the future needs. So having that sense of financial balance in our lives is a way to think about financial wellness. Debt and not being able to pay for our bills or living paycheck to paycheck can be very stressful, and it doesn't give for a place where you are feeling well in that department. And this area can fluctuate in a person's life and can be a place that is always stressful, but being with or living within means is sometimes easier said than done than in other times. But finding someone who can help bring that balance back is a great coping skill in how to reach some financial wellness. There are some great podcasts out there, and there are also some good books to read. Myself, I enjoy podcasts, and so every once in a while, I'll listen to Mel Robbins is one of my favorite podcasts, and she sometimes has some of speakers on her podcast that talk about financial wellness. So that's one way that I can learn from her and help me balance in my life financial wellness. So in the next slide, there are some questions that you can reflect on in your for yourself about financial wellness. And then in our last dimension of wellness, we have occupational or vocational wellness. So basically, are we happy with our jobs? Are we happy with our volunteering opportunities that we have in our life? So thinking about occupational and vocational wellness is the ability to achieve personal satisfaction and fulfillment for your work either paid or unpaid, and can maintain balance in your life and make a positive impact within the organization or community where you live, work, and play. And hopefully you're all feeling happy and fulfilled and satisfied with being a member of Women of Today, so that leans into your occupational vocational wellness. So on the next slide are a few reflection questions you can think about regarding occupational wellness. All right, so thinking about all of the 8 dimensions of wellness and looking at our next slide and understanding the continuum of mental health, how are these a part of being mentally well with having mental health? And I think the best example is the 8 dimensions of wellness in each of those areas, and then moving over into the battery, the life of a battery, and how if you think about your environmental health in that area, are you thriving? Are you managing? Are you struggling? Or is that area in crisis? And then you can find hopefully ways to increase the battery life of that area, that dimension of wellness. So I hope those 2 things help in a way that you can balance and find some wellness in each of those dimensions. All right, so let's dig a little bit deeper into mental health on the next slide. Remember that mental health depends on the person. Everyone is unique and different. Every person matters, and mental health means something different to each one of us. We may tend to fall in one zone most of the time, but it can drop into lower zones or go up to healthier zones. So it's always fluctuating. It's important to understand that it's a variable, is that how variable someone's emotional state is varies itself among people. So that emotional state of being mentally healthy varies for everyone. Most people we encounter will be in a fair to good mental state most of the time, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be concerned with their mental health. People with diagnosed mental health conditions may have found themselves in the orange or red zones in the past, which led to their diagnosis and treatment. But anyone can fall into this state given the right circumstances, some very stressful times in our lives. What matters is that individuals learn to recognize their own symptoms at the earliest stages and being able to vocalize and communicate about their own symptoms when they get into the yellow or red zones. So the social and environmental influences that we feel, I think let's kind of briefly glance at this next slide. And the social community relationships and the individuals. So the individuals is influenced by other factors, and that is from the relationship that they have with close people, their family, their peers, goes even out further into the community, their neighbors, their workplace, and then even further out from that is society and cultural norms. All of those influence each individual and how they are doing in their own mental health. So I think the next slide, I thought I had maybe moved past some of these areas, but it doesn't look like it did that when I sent the slides over. So I want to get into, we can go through this very quickly though, because I feel like I'm getting short on time. When do I need to be done?
You have 15 minutes, Michelle.
Okay, thank you. So putting together a wellness plan is often something that a therapist would do with an individual when they are in uh, when they have come and they are needing a plan to get well, to get from the red yellow zone into the yellow, orange, and green zone. So just quickly focus on change most meaningful to you and start simple. Don't have a whole list of things that you're going to change and you're going to change them all tomorrow. Start simple, start with baby steps. Do it as an experience. Maybe you think it will work. Maybe you think it won't work, but at least try. Okay, see if that is something you can continue to do. So start simple, think of it as an experiment. If it doesn't work, you've got another thing on your list. So be patient with yourself and support your goals. You're going to continue to work on your goals and have people around you support you. On the next slide, we talk a little bit more about what is meaningful to you and what that looks like. So you're going to do it for yourself. You're not doing it for anybody else. You're not doing it because somebody told you to. You're not going to do it because you should. Someone told you that you should do this. There are no shoulds and there are no shouldn'ts. That is just self-defeating and can lead to lots of feelings of guilt. So you are doing it for yourself. You're not going to worry about anyone else. This is a time to focus on you and the areas of wellness that you need to build on and that you would like to change. Next, putting together the plan, start simple. Focus on what dimension you would like to put a plan together for and not for anyone else. And you know yourself best in what areas of wellness are causing you stress. So you're going to take some time to reflect and fill in the blanks. In starting simple, remember that it's a place where you can grow from, that you can manage and reach your goal from is starting simple. How many of you understand and know about SMART goals? SMART being an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Those are oftentimes how we put together our goals, is answering is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it achievable? Is it relevant? And does it have a time limit to keep you accountable? So on the next slide, yes. So run it as an experiment, give yourself a time frame to explore, and do it without judgment. You're not going to judge yourself. Nobody else is going to do it, is going to judge you either. So you're just going to run it as an experiment. You could fail, and that's okay. But you could succeed, and isn't that awesome? But you don't know until you try. So just think of it as an experiment. On the next slide, be patient with yourself. Make a change that sticks, requires repetition. I like to go by the saying that it takes someone, and maybe this is true for myself, but I need to hear things at least 7 times before it like sticks in my head, which can be very annoying for my husband. But sometimes it's just the repetition that I hear it or that I see it that it finally sticks. So just remember that it takes time for new behavior to become a habit. On the next slide, support your goals. Build in reminders. So maybe on your phone, you have a calendar that gives you a reminder every day. Set an alarm to go off at a certain time every day. Those are different methods that you can use to support your goals. Get a buddy who's going to check in with you and is going to make you accountable and is going to work with you through those goals. And then next, embrace support. So support leads to greater mental wellness by building connection, which is an antidote to stress, creating increased vulnerability with someone else, strengthens a bond, fostering that feeling when that you are not alone. You have someone that you know will be there to support you. They said, "I'll be your buddy. You can call me. If it's 4 a.m., you can call me." No, we hope that that's not the situation, but we have someone that we can call, and we know that that person is going to be there. So embrace the support. And if that's a support group, then embrace it and give it an opportunity. Start simple. Maybe it's just something that you can think of as an experiment and be patient with yourself. And it's either you're going to enjoy it or you're not, and that's okay, but you tried, right? And then on the next slide, we talk about your best to look different every day. So some days I'll get that walk in, some days I won't. And so I have to adjust and be ready for how I'm going to cope. So some days you're going to be doing really great, and some days it's not going to be so great. Okay, on to the next one. Why does mental health matter? So points that I'd like for you to remember is that poor mental health is a risk factor for mental illness. Mental disorders are the most common cause of disability in the U.S., contributing to 18.7% of all years lost to illness, disability, and premature death. Poor mental health may precede or exacerbate mental illness. People with poor mental health but no current mental illness are 3 to 6 times more likely to develop mental illness in the next 10 years. These are lots of different points that people have made and that are available in the research on why mental health matters. So let's talk about the narrative that we can use for mental health and well-being on the next slide. So everyone's brains are built through experience, and we use those experiences to either help us learn or help us build in protective factors. There may be times that we've had experience with fear, trauma, chronic stress, and those may impact your mental health and well-being. There is a lot of research on adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, if you've heard of those before. Those can affect mental health and well-being. Resilience, no matter how you may think that it is evident in every person, is sometimes not quite enough for them to get through it, and that your own physical health is intertwined with your mental health. And I did say that on a scale of 1 to 10, mental health and physical health are right up there with number 1. On the next slide, every person and system has a role in your mental health and well-being. Individuals need a sense of power and purpose. They need positive relationships. Culture shapes our definitions and understanding, and everyone needs opportunity to learn and practice skills to manage life and engage in the world. On the next slide, why do we feel uneasy talking about mental health? Why do we feel uneasy when someone might say, "Yeah, I'm just not feeling so great today. I'm really actually quite depressed." And what would you do, or how would you feel if someone says to you, I'm feeling like suicide is my only answer. I feel like I just don't want to be here anymore." And then what happens? So let's talk about some words that we can use and how we hear them and what we can do. So quickly with the next 6 minutes or 5, let's move on to the next slide even. Okay, so we come from experience, right? And that forms how we think and what we might believe. So one belief is neither right or wrong. Attitudes towards situation and groups are come from our lived experience, ideas of why people do what they do. Past stories also provide a lot of insight, and especially those stories of pain, sadness, and anger can um, can for a person either help them to tell their story. It can either help us hear their story. And so being cognizant of and knowing that this is all true of beliefs and attitudes and stories, that it's neither right nor wrong. So we need to start being comfortable, being uncomfortable about those conversations. So moving on to the next slide, you can see that we're going to take the part of the word uncomfortable and cross out un. Okay, un is a prefix for not. So we're not going to use uncomfortable. We're going to become more comfortable. So having a positive narrative. So let's normalize mental health. Let's understand that there is help. Let's know that you can get help. And let's emphasize prevention. So let's get to a point where we are preventing people from thinking that they need to harm themselves as a solution, and instead know that they can talk to someone, that they can get help. And then on the next slide, it talks about talking about hope and healing for a person who might be very sad and might be sharing things that are difficult about their mental health. Just talk about how we can get help. There is hope. You are not alone. On the next slide. So talking about mental health and suicide carelessly can increase the risk and decrease the likelihood that a person will get help. So it's very important how we talk about it. So let's, on the next slide, learn about having healthy conversations, encourage equality between physical and mental health. If you don't hear anything else through everything I have shared, remember that they are equal. Your physical and mental health. Learn and get to a point where you can talk openly about it and hear people talk openly about it. Educate yourself. Show compassion and empathy for those who are experiencing mental illness, and be conscious of the words that you use. So I'm going to skip ahead the next couple of slides, because going past this one, I'll share the link to that in a follow-up email. So go ahead and keep clicking. So instead of saying, what do you have to be depressed about? Words you can say are, I'm sorry that you are hurting. Instead of, you just need to get over it. You can say, I'm here for you. I love you. Instead of saying, you are choosing to feel this way, you can say, no one chooses to feel this way. And then on the next slide, use people first language. That means that if I'm sharing with you about my aunt who has a mental health condition, I would say that my aunt Frances is living with a mental health condition, or Jane has lived experience with depression. So you're using the person first and then talking about the mental health condition after you've referenced the person first. Okay, go ahead. And another slide. Okay, and keeps clicking through this, please. So these are words that we have used in society that references mental health. and they often have stigma attached to them. So let's help end the stigma by using the next slide to help us understand that, again, these are more words that also are also associated with mental illness, with suicide. And instead of using these words, we can say instead, on the next slide, died by suicide. There was a suicide death. They ended their life or they took their life. Attempted to end their life. These are words that we can use instead of saying committed suicide. Committed has some connotations to it that give the feeling of being a criminal, of doing something wrong, of being in the act of doing something illegal. So we want to stop using those words and instead use this alternative language. And there are some more slides that I wanted to share, but I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm also going to share with you in the chat a link to 988, which has been a phenomenal resource to many individuals. You can call this number 988. It's like calling 911, but it's all about how you can get help talking with someone and getting either help for yourself or someone else when they're having a mental health situation. And then they can text 988 and they can also chat, or you can go online to 988 and get some resources. I hope this has been helpful. I didn't get through all that I wanted to because there's so much that can be shared about how we can change the narrative. But if you've seen the commercial where two people are sitting in a cafe and they have those word texts, those word bubbles above them, and one is asking the other, "So how are you today?" And this word bubble pops up and says, "I'm sad. I'm really not feeling well," but they can't say it. And then they kind of hem and haw, and the other person on the other side says, "How are you really feeling today?" And then they're opening that space to share. I hope that you can open space to share for yourself and for others who need that space as well. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Michelle. A lot of good information. Did we lose her? Thank you, everybody, for coming on or popping on tonight and listening. Does anybody have any comments or anything they want to share with Michelle before we go?
Good job, Michelle.
Thank you.
Very good information.
Yeah. If anyone has questions or would like to get a hold of me for more information, you can certainly reach out to Shirley or Deb, and they can get a hold of me. I'm more than happy to talk about this with anyone.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.